Welcome to Chapman Falls, here in East Haddam, Connecticut. Perhaps the most beautiful place in the state.
Welcome to the Devil's Hop Yard here in East Haddam, Connecticut. Perhaps the most evil, demonic place in the entire state.
It's easy to feel a sense of peace here at the falls. The babble of the river, the sway of the trees. As one reporter put it back in 1929, it will ease your cares, rehabilitate your nerves, and restore your soul to harmony.
The spiritual weight of the Devil's Hop Yard will hit you like a truck. Back in 1901, a writer for Connecticut Magazine came to visit the waterfall and described its oppressive aura perfectly. Even today, one can understand why the former inhabitants described this spot with bated breath. There was something baneful and depressive about the very atmosphere.
Okay, dude, look, I'm just trying to make a nice video about a waterfall here, and you're coming at me with all this unsubstantiated folklore stuff. Like, even that term you keep throwing around, the Devil's Hop Yard. I hope you realize that that's not even the original name of this place. Like, you see, way back in the day, there was this guy named Dibble who used to grow hops around here, so people started calling this place Dibble's Hop Yard. And then over time, that name just got mangled and mispronounced from Dibble into Devil. So you get it.
Look at those trees. Cursed they are. Centuries ago, a witch turned herself into a crow and made landing upon the branches of these trees. In turn, she pivoted to face each of the 4 cardinal directions and then flapped away with a beat of her wretched wings. That evening, the leaves of the tree withered and died. Never again did that tree grow leaves or acorns, and even today, you can still see the branches of these trees are bare and empty.
Okay, but it's also March right now, so it makes sense that the trees wouldn't have leaves at the moment. And then even then, there's plenty of reasons why a tree might not grow leaves, like disease or bug infestation.
And the legend of the witch tree is only the first harrowing story about the Devil's Hop Yard. Plenty more wicked tales can be spun about this unholy land. Like, for example, years ago, a young boy named Abe Brown cut the sheepskin off his holy Bible and used it to reinforce the seat of his pants. That way, getting spanked wouldn't hurt, and Abe was free to misbehave as much as he liked. Eventually, though, young Abe was discovered to have desecrated his Bible and was imprisoned in the East Haddam jail. But at some point, he must have escaped, for several of the townsfolk swore that they saw Abe Brown riding his horse down this very road, right through the heart of the hop yard. But what's more is that young Abe wasn't alone. Right there alongside him, riding another horse, was the devil, horns and all.
Okay, this time you are definitely just confusing stories. Like, what you're referring to here is a prank that the son of a minister pulled, like, way back during the same time period. So this preacher's son, he dressed up like the devil, complete with like a set of horns, right? And then he rode through the hop yard screaming and yelling and just trying to like scare the pants off the whole town. So there you go. It wasn't the real devil on the horse's back. It was just the preacher's son pulling some kind of joke. Again, there is really no evidence at all that the devil ever pranced around at Chapmans Falls.
Ah, but you're forgetting something, my friend. Real, tangible, physical evidence of the devil's presence here at the falls. The strangely circular potholes dotting the stone around the river. Some are large, some are small, and some have been broken. But all of them hold a certain power, an irresistible aura. Potholes like these are a rarity, an oddity, and their existence has puzzled visitors for centuries. Mountains of folklore have been written about these circles. One story speaks again of the devil who this time was visiting the hop yard to dance and play upon the rocky outcroppings around the river, when he lost his balance and accidentally dipped his tail into the water. Furious, the devil began to leap and bound around the waterfall, steaming mad, red hot. He melted great circular holes into the rock with every stamp of his foot.
All right, well, that's just...
But still, there is more to tell. Other stories claim that these potholes were the earthen cauldrons of witches, congregated here to brew their hell's broth beneath the crash of the falls. The devil himself would often sit and supervise the meetings from the top of the rock, holding his tail like a scepter.
Okay, listen. Again, we have a perfectly reasonable explanation for all this. While I absolutely agree with you that these potholes are like wonderfully interesting and quite unique, their existence is really not all that mysterious. They were simply dug by the water, or more specifically, by small stones that the water got a hold of. See, every once in a while, a little rock might get caught in a swirl of water where it would spin around and around and around until eventually it began to dig like a small depression into the stone of the riverbed. And then eventually this spinning rock might get ground into dust and the digging would stop for a bit. And then another rock would eventually show up and enter the vortex, and after centuries and centuries of digging and digging, we end up with the big stone potholes that we see today. So, see, you get it now? There's really no evidence of the devil again. Like, see how the water here has swirled this foam into a near perfect circle? It's the exact same concept as the thing with the rocks.
Okay, but other stories of the devil's hop yard still exist. The War of the Witches beneath the earth being one of the most prominent. Back during the 18th century, several incredibly loud rumbles from deep within the ground emanated out of the hop yard, leading the townsfolk of East Haddam to conclude that witches must be engaging in magical duels in the dark caverns of the underworld.
Or maybe those rumblings were just the sounds of multiple earthquakes that happened here in Connecticut back in the 18th century. Like look, here's two that I found mention of, one in 1727 and another in 1791.
Okay, well, how about the story of the silver button bullet? One time, a hunter couldn't kill a bird with normal bullets, so he loaded up his gun with a silver button from his jacket and blasted the animal dead in one shot, proving that he had encountered another witch in the shape of a bird. Or how about the tales of the infamous Red Hood, a dreadful demon, always dressed in a bright red hood. She would wait at the doorsteps of men who were returning home late at night. She would bare her sharp yellow fangs, twist her mouth into the shape of an uncanny grin, and flash eyes as bright as the moon at any who dared to approach her. Many an October's night was spent worrying that the lady in the red hood would come a-rattling at the window of God-fearing farmers.
Okay, both of those stories can actually be explained away by excessive drinking. Like, we have plenty of record of men stumbling through the woods at night, drunk as a skunk, off good old New England rum, and just imagining demons and witches lurking around every corner. Like, it's very probable all of these stories are just drunken hallucinations, nothing more than that.
Okay, man. Well, how about you just let me read you a poem then? It was written by John Brainerd back in the 19th century, and it's really cool, and I think you would really like it. And it's just all about the spooky stuff surrounding the hop yard here.
No, dude, no stupid poem. I just want to stick to the history of the waterfall here, the real history.
Hey, man, this is history. Don't you get that? do you really think that I believe in all this stuff? That I like believe every demon and witch and whatever story? Like, I just think it's cool. Like, that's what you're not understanding is it's not about whether I believe in it or not, and it's not about whether you believe it in or not. It's just about if other people believed in it. And whether you want to admit it or not, for hundreds of years, lots and lots of people really believed in this stuff. Like yeah, those potholes were just made by rocks being swirled around in the water, but isn't it cool that people actually literally thought that it was made by the devil? Like that just a hole in the stone could inspire so much fear, like such a fantastic story. Like, do you really not think that that stuff contributed to the culture and history of this place?
Okay, yeah. I guess I never really thought about it like that.
Yeah, man, that kind of stuff influences people. Like, it affects how they live their lives and what they do and how they talk and what they say and all sorts of stuff. And by the way, all of your, like, historical, factual explanations, I hope you understand that those are just as prone to exaggeration as, like, all of my devil stories. Like that thing about the Devil's Hop Yard supposedly being named after a guy called Dibble. Did you know that absolutely no record exists of anyone named Dibble ever living or owning land in East Haddam? Like, your Dibble story could just as easily be folklore too. It could very easily just be another fun story that people tell.
Oh, really? I guess I never dug into it that deep.
Yeah, and the same goes for that story about the minister's son pulling the devil on horseback prank. Like, people have looked like really deep into that, and there's actually no record of a minister with a son ever living in East Haddam, like at all. It's very likely that we're just talking about another story here too. And those loud thunder noises that you want to brush off as just a couple of earthquakes, those happened a whole lot more than just once or twice. Like, people have been hearing those strange rumbles from the earth for a long time. Like, even the Native American tribes who lived around here way before the Europeans ever set foot on the continent, they had names for this place that directly referred to the periodic crashing noises that emanated up from the earth. Like yeah, it probably wasn't witches or demons. There's definitely got to be some kind of scientific explanation for those noises, but it doesn't change the fact that that kind of stuff breeds culture and tradition. It is intimately tied to the land that we're standing on.
All right, I guess I have been a little bit dismissive.
Yeah, man, like, all I'm saying is you don't have to believe in monsters to understand how other people believing them might have colored the history of a place. Now, please, can I read my poem?
All right, go ahead.
Oh, that is the very wizard place, and now is the wizard hour, by the light that was conjured up to trace, ere the star that falls can run its race, the seat